Well, joining us now to discuss is Republican Congressman from the great state of Texas, Congressman Louie Gohmert. Thank you so much for joining us, Congressman. Always great to see you.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
So let's begin with what the president had to say, or better yet, the folks that were not there, because you have an issue with that, right?
Right. It's not just an issue, it's a fact. The border is not under control, no matter how much Biden may read that off of a teleprompter or remember the notes he's given to say. It's not true. The border is just in complete disarray. He said the worst attack on democracy since the Civil War occurred on January 6th. Of course, that's a lie, and I don't blame him. He's reading whatever's in the teleprompter. But the fact is, there have been many worse attacks. The 1954, the Puerto Ricans came in, the terrorists into the House and shot 4 members of Congress. Bill Ayers' group, the Weather Underground, blowing up a bomb. But Heather and Bob, all of those just pale in comparison to the surge, the invasion that's going on from the South. And this president took an oath to protect states from invasion, and he's doing nothing but encourage. People are still coming across saying that they believe Biden wants them to come across. He can say all he wants to, wait till later, but he's doing nothing. He didn't even address it in this private speech he gave. It wasn't a joint session. It was a private speech, and the records go back to 1879. There's never been an exclusive invitation-only joint session. So that was a bit of an attack on on democracy. And of course, the Democrats believe in attacks on democracy. They did that when, for the first time in American history, Democrat House members took over the floor and would not allow us to start a session. They took over for 24 hours. So they're familiar with attacks on democracy, but they're not being honest about it. The southern border needs to be secured, and their idea of compassion and allowing people to come across and be forced into sex and drug trafficking is not my definition of compassion. That it's really an outrage.
Congressman, were you invited to the joint session, the speech?
No, and actually, if I'd been invited, I would have been there. But only 200 of the 535 members of Congress were invited, and I was not invited. That has never happened before, going back as far as the records go. Yeah. For a joint session of Congress. That's why it wasn't a joint session of Congress. Apparently, they were concerned that the president couldn't handle a big crowd. That, going back to campaign days, they've really got to protect him.
Congressman Gohmert, I did want to press a little further on that about, what was the great concern? Because I thought that every member of Congress had been or had received the vaccine, but yet everyone's sitting there with masks on. What was that about? Especially if you're encouraging people to get the vaccine.
Well, as we found out when the Speaker was encouraged to have, and the Sergeant at Arms were encouraged to have troops there, National Guard, available on January 6th, they said that would not be good optics. They were concerned more about optics than the Capitol and people's lives. And I think that's what we're looking at once again. The president, the speaker, the vice president, more concerned about optics than they are about governing. And it's just tragic. It is really tragic. But there's some of us, I haven't had the vaccination. I had the real thing, and the antibodies I had from that served me better than any vaccine. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's necessary for everybody to have the vaccination if you've had something better, the real thing. But it's ridiculous. And keep in mind, Heather and Bob, back when on the day we were voting for Speaker, the Speaker compromised everybody's health to bring somebody into the House chamber that she knew had COVID, but she was afraid without that person she wouldn't have enough votes. And so I guess it's all about motive. They're not as concerned about people's health as they are about optics and about winning.
Yeah,
Period.
well, if everybody has access to it, or as in your case, you had it and didn't feel like you needed it, seems like it should be voluntary, as it always is. But just let's end it on addressing the border itself. What do you think needs to be done there?
Well, he needs to redo what President Trump did that had secured the border. And I'm hearing from Border Patrol agents, and they say they have got to have help. They can't keep going like this. And the number of young children, I've seen they're coming more in greater numbers than we've ever seen. Secure the border, have people wait in Mexico, finish building the walls, fill in the gaps, and we can secure the border and help the Mexican people by drying up the drug cartel's money.
That sounds very familiar. That sounds very familiar.
Yeah, it's the Trump agenda, and it was working.
Yes, thank you very much, Congressman Louie Gohmert. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thanks so much.